Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Author Susie Horgan, author of Punk Love, thanks for calling. And what degrees is it in Miami right now?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a balmy air. It's a little sprinkly, a little overcast, a beautiful wind. It's perfect conditions. I live here all year round, so I love it when there's a beautiful breeze.
Oh, wow. Well, Susie, thanks for coming by, and you guys are having the nice weather, both Eric and Susie, and I'm jealous, and maybe that's when at one point I'll relocate to Florida, especially because of the great weather. Now, Susie, I'm sure you're enjoying the Miami Book Fair, just at the beginning of the beginning stages of these 2 days, and enjoy going out and talking to people, aren't you? It's a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's also the week leading up to it, where there's a series of authors every night leading up to it. So it's kind of a build up to, and this is the big bang on Saturday and Sunday. So it's
exactly.
A very fertile ground.
I had a big bang as well, Susie. I ended up interviewing 4 authors a week since, I guess, September, leading up to the book fair. So Lisa Palais and I, we've done this 3rd year, and she's fantastic. Shout out to Lisa. And also the Miami Book Fair Twitter feed and everybody that's helped out in this process is so much fun. And Eric, and like I said, I want to kind of go into the background really quickly because, again, this is where our impromptu. I'm into musicians, and Susie, you're talking to the right person. Eric Remmel has he also owns Life Improvement After Dark, and he deals with lots of musicians. Eric, tell a little bit about that, and I know you have questions for Susie.
Oh, yeah, we built a internet radio platform just to help promote local musicians, local original artists, and it's a lot of fun. It's been a great blast, and we play music and artists from all over the world.
Oh, how wonderful. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. But I have a lot of questions for you. So we were chatting before we came on here, and you were telling about some of your book, The Punk Love, talking about taking pictures of punk artists back in the 80s. What was that like? I mean, I'm sure it's been a huge transition in the music industry overall, but what was it like doing that in the 80s?
Well, it was just very natural and organic process for me. I was a student at American University where I was taking Photography 101 and at the same time scooping ice cream at Horgan, and my boss was Henry Rollins. And across the street at the theater, Ian Mackay worked in the theater, and we became close friends, and I would bring my camera into work because I would have an assignment due the next day, so I began taking photographs, and they never knew that I was, they always thought, because I had a real camera, that I was a real photographer.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was the very beginning of the birth of the DC movement, so I was fortunate enough to be there at that special time and capture the community that still remains strong and vital today, and I'm still close with those my friends from that time.
Now you're also a photographer, you said, for the Miami Book Fair there?
Well, I've photographed authors. There's Mitchell Kaplan is my dear friend who owns Books and Books and is the founder of the book fair. And when I came to Miami, I started shooting authors, which is another community documentation is what I grabbed toward. And so for 20 years, I've been documenting the authors who pass through town. And it's just a wonderful opportunity, and it's really a kind of a very warm community. And it takes Miami into the outer world.
And definitely, I mean, this being the 30th anniversary, the 30th book fair, you must have seen a lot of interesting people come through there over the years.
Oh yes, from Bill Clinton to Susan Sontag to Sherman Alexie to. I can't. It's like, who's your favorite artist? You just can't name it, but I've photographed pretty much everyone. So yeah, it's been a wonderful opportunity.
Do you ever get any great pictures of yourself with all these individuals?
No, definitely behind the scenes.
Well, that's no fun.
Always.
What do you think the difference between authors and entertainers are, especially rock stars and authors? Do you think there's similarities in the two, or are they?
Absolutely. They have a mission and that they want to. They're very dedicated to what they believe in and what they write, and they both have voices. They want to share their voices, and this is what I try to capture: the essence of who they are.
And that's what your job is as a photographer. You picture, you see what you want to portray, and you find the right pictures. How many pictures do you have to take in a shoot to kind of really find that picture you want to choose? That's probably the hardest job as a photographer, is looking at all these great shots, but yet you're able to spot what's the best. Is that correct? And a lot of times when you get these shots?
Yeah, editing is a very, very critical part of the process. But it depends. If I connect, when I shot the punks in the 80s, it's always served as a barometer to me. And if I connect and I feel and I kind of transcend and I become part of the music or become part of the reading, or that's when I know I'm doing my job. If I'm just taking a photograph, and so it's quite a high bar to meet that time in the 80s. And sometimes I hit it, and sometimes I don't.
It's a process, right? For sure.
Yes.
Eric, what have you seen when you're dealing the difference between authors, and because you've interviewed a lot of authors, and also, again, musicians?
Oh, there's a lot of similarities. They're both exceedingly creative people, or at least, I guess industries. But it's really interesting to talk to musicians, because it's a lot of times to them, there's very similarities with authors, because they don't see it as a job. It's a passion, it's a hobby, it's something they just love to do, and they do it whether they get paid or they don't.
Right. Well, and it's also very individualistic. Some are much more egomaniacal than others. Others are just very approachable and open. Others are reserved. So it is. It depends on. It's if you like someone's writing or you don't, or someone's music. And with the musicians, I have quite an array. It's not just the DC punk. My music collection is probably as vast as my authors. So sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes.
I think it's interesting because back in the 80s, when you were doing a lot of the pictures and stuff, punk was just really, it was really just coming out. That was the beginning of that musical genre and scene, or at least coming mainstream. And it's even completely different than it was back then as well. So do you still listen to a lot of the punk artists and a lot of that type of music?
Sure. I mean, they're all my friends. So I listen to what my friends do. I listen to a lot of classical and opera too. And I'm also discovering music through my 12-year-old son, things that I've never listened to. So he's teaching me an array of pop that I've never really experienced. But my roots are more Boston and New York than even though I documented DC, I started music before then. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. Thank you for definitely coming in and talking. Love to have an opportunity to talk to you again about specific things, especially your book. Right before you go, give us specifically Punk Love, what your favorite thing about doing the book.
Oh, it was because it was such a organic evolution. I sat on that work for 20 years, and the images took a life of their own because of the movement. They became iconic, and everything actually came to me. I never went to publish a book. Everything came to me because the strength of the movement, which was just represented by my photographs. So it was kind of an honor to how that book.
All right. So where can we purchase your book, learn more about you, and different things? Do we have a place to find some info?
Sure, you can just Google Susie J. Horgan and Punk Love. And Books and Books is where I always recommend you get their signed copies there. And of course, Discord Records carries my book.
Well, you're fantastic, Susie. Thanks for coming by the studio, the makeshift studios in Miami, and love working with you guys and learning about what you do and kind of showing that artists are artists, and we're all the same in so many ways. I consider radio guys artists as well because we're all about creativity. We're definitely not making a ton of money doing it. So thanks for calling.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.